Hi everyone, my name's Sadat and I'll be taking you through the demonstration. And just before we go into the demo, I just wanted to bring up and set the scene a little bit about what I'm going to be discussing. So the use case or the scenario we're looking at, the goal we have here is to increase the accuracy of sustainability reporting across our organization. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at a few different things within the governance and the catalog platform. We might understand the systems, the processes that support our ESG assets. And when I say ESG here, we're talking about the environmental, social governance aspect. We're going to show how we can capture and catalog these critical assets, establish that end-to-end picture that Cam was also talking about so we can see downstream and upstream impacts. And then we're going to start to look at some of the challenges that we might be dealing with, right? So the low trust in the quality of our assets as well, and how we can improve the quality and focus on the assets that we need for our initiative here, okay? And then we'll have a look and be able to see some of the kind of benefits you get from that, and all of that being covered as part of the data governance module. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come across and we'll open up the Data Integrity Suite. So you should be seeing my screen now here. What you can see is the Precisely Data Integrity Suite. This is the kind of landing page where we start with all of the different modules that are components that are available from the Precisely Data Integrity Suite. You see here, I have access to a few different components like the data integration, the data observability, and I've also got my data governance component here module. And this is where we're going to be focusing today. And these are some of the other areas you'll see that I have access to, which you'll be able to see in other sessions that are available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself into the data governance component, and this will take me to my data governance platform and module, and we'll be focusing on staying inside the data governance module. So here you can see the home page as we had defined. I've got some menu items here with my favorites, my goals and objectives, my policies that we're governing, my business assets, my processes, my data catalog with my technical assets. And then we've got a global search bar here, front and center, which allows me to search throughout all of the assets that we're governing. But what we're going to do, what I'm going to focus on first is I'm going to take two different approaches to this. The first approach I'm going to look at is tackling this by looking at my goals and objectives of my organization. So the first thing here we're going to do is we're going to go to our goals as specified in the data governance module. And I'm going to be able to see a list of all the various different goals that have been set across my organization. And what I want to do is, the one I'm focused on here is to increase the accuracy of our sustainability reporting. And I'm actually going to take myself to this goal that's been set in within my organization. I can see who the owner is, the CEO, and I can see the status of this being active. And I'm going to focus on this first from a diagram perspective. So I can see my goal, which has been set, which is to increase the accuracy of our sustainability reporting. I can see that this is tied to two objectives within my organization. One of them being to increase the understanding and trust of the ESG assets, and the other one being to reduce the manual effort of ESG reporting. And what I can also understand is that these are actually measured by some metrics, and I can expand this out and understand the metrics that are measuring this. And here we have a data quality score of ESG assets that need to be increased to at least 99%, which is going to help me achieve my objective. And if I open this out, I can then start to drill down even further and see that actually this is metric is related to a number of different business terms that drive this metric. So I've got a business term here for my business travel, for my carbon footprint, for my energy consumption, my greenhouse gases, and so forth. And this is just a small example. There can be a much larger number of business terms or business assets that might be related to this particular metric. And then what we can go further is we can start to understand, right, there are actually some technical assets across my data catalog that actually relate further. So here I can start to understand from a particular database, we have some columns, which energy type, our site city, our site ID, and so forth, that all tie back to our various different business assets and all the way back to our goals. And in this case, my carbon footprint is going to be the asset that I want to focus on to help understand what technical assets drive it and how I can improve the accuracy of them via this method that we've come here. We're able to navigate down to our business term. So that's one approach, navigating through our goals and trying to understand the assets that drive our goals, our objectives, and our metrics. The second approach that I want to show here is being able to come into the home page here and just search throughout all of the assets that you're governing. So in this case, we're going to look at our carbon footprint, and we're going to hit enter, and we're going to get a set of results on the assets that we're searching for. You'll see I have some hits here across my right-hand categories that I can filter into if I want to. But in the center here, I have my actual results of all the assets. And I can see here my carbon footprint. I can see the status of my asset. I can understand some of the scoring information for my trust, which we'll look into further. And I can see a description along with some additional information. And then I can see other results that I have. And the carbon footprint, once again, is the asset that I want to get to and that I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to select my carbon footprint, and I get to see the asset detail page for our carbon footprint. And I get to understand straight away, again, the status of the asset highlighted top, front, and center. I can see the name of the asset, in this case, my carbon footprint. I can see what other users within my organization are feeding back about the asset as well. So they have the ability to provide feedback via surveys, and we can use that to drive a rating for the asset as well. I can understand a description of the actual asset that we have here. So what does my carbon footprint actually mean? The sensitivity level, so this is considered confidential to our organization. Is this considered a critical data element? Yes or no? Is this PII data, so is it personal identifiable information or not? And who are the different responsibilities? So who is the business owner for my asset and who is the data steward if I wanted to contact them? In this case, it would be Mandy Bank for the data stewards, okay? But one thing to note here is that what you're seeing here is quite configurable and definable, right? So in this case, for this particular ESG asset carbon footprint, we've defined the various different asset attributes that we believe, but you can define different ones for your organization to match and help you continue to grow through your governance journey. Then down below, we have some additional information. So what is the categorization of this asset? So is it considered an enterprise or global level categorization? What are the related objectives? So we saw this earlier, that the objective that relates this is to increase the accuracy of our sustainable reporting, which directly goes to our increased understanding and trust in our ESG assets. What are the policies that actually regulate this asset? So are there any policies that are tied to my carbon footprint? And we can see there is one here for our financial disclosures that we need to provide around our TCFD reporting. So we can see that here. We can see that there is a process within our organization that we are governing for our site assessment process, which directly ties to our carbon footprint as well. And then we can see some of the data quality rules related as well. So at the moment, there is one data quality rule, which is our valid values check, which directly relates to this particular asset that we're looking at in our carbon footprint. So what I also understand is what are the different technical assets from my data catalog that directly relate to this asset. And I can see some of those examples here. And any of these relationships, so for example, my energy type, I can open this up in a new tab, and it's going to take me to my energy type, in this case, the asset from my data catalog. And I can start to understand the information we've harvested from this particular asset. So we can see the name of the field, we can see the data classification. I can see the full path of this asset. It looks like it's coming from Snowflake in this case. I can also understand the different profiling information that we've been able to capture when we harvested this asset. So there's the total row count. What is the base type? What is the semantic type if we identify one? Do we find any duplicate or similar fields across our data catalog? So at the time of profiling, it will check against other assets, and you'll see that we're able to find one similar field. So there is a similar field in a view called ENRG type, which actually comes close to this asset. So we think that's a similar asset. We can understand the sample distribution of the various values that are classified. We can see the top K values and the bottom values across the asset. And there's some standard information about the null count, the blank count, the min length, the max length, and so forth. So all of this is captured at the time of harvesting. We specify that profiling information here. What you also have the ability to see historical information. So I can see my historical view, for example, across my total row count, where it can show me over time how my total row count changed. So you can see here we had a bit of a spike, and then our total row count went down again. So all of that information is available to me within the catalog. So I can understand any changes that have happened over time that might affect this asset as well. Okay. So moving back from the technical asset, moving back to our carbon footprint here, I'm just going to come across here and have a look at now what we look here around our trust, around our scoring. So you can see that it has a governance score of 100% and a data quality score of 88%. So we're going to look at our scoring here to see a deeper look at what that means. So the first one we'll look at is our data quality score. So this asset has a conformity check which is being run against it, and it's resulting in an 88% data quality score. And you can see here over time how the data quality has changed, right? There's been some up and down, but it's been stable now at 88%. So we understand the quality of this asset and the rules that are being run against it. And we know if we need to improve this, where we need to focus, right? So this is one of the assets that we can focus on in terms of improving the data quality. I can see the scores over time as well. So we have all of the historical information, and I can actually click on any of these to understand what the score was at that time as well. So we can see that this was driven by a 67% score at this stage. And then we also allow you to define a governance score. So this is talking about how well this asset is actually being governed, right? So is my business owner assigned? Is my data steward assigned? Is my description populated? Is my status set to certified? So this allows you to help grow your governance journey and understand which areas within your governance program you might need to focus on to help improve those particular areas across your organization. Okay, so those are kind of two key scores that help you drive the trust you have in the assets that you're working with. And then we looked at the impact analysis when we were talking about the visualization, but I want to take a look at the lineage diagram here. So you heard Cam mention earlier about understanding the kind of downstream effects of an asset, getting the end-to-end view of an asset. And here really using the lineage diagram, if I expand this out as well, I can understand how my asset flows through my organization. So I've got my business asset, which relates to a number of different technical assets. And that technical asset, at any point, I can click on and say, show me some information about this. And I can then understand the details we hold on this. And I can understand for my energy type, the kind of governance score associated, the data quality score of that asset as well. I can see the data quality rules that relate to it, and I can see the full path to this asset. And if I wanted to understand the ownership, I could as well. I can see how it flows forward. In this case, it's being manipulated by a function or a procedure, and it's ending up in a view as a different name here, and then finally ends up in a report, which is our sustainability report, which is a Power BI report at the end of the day. And this gives me my kind of end-to-end view. And this is all captured as part of our harvesting process, where we are able to automate the harvesting from various different application systems and then push that information to this catalog component and be able to see the lineage here automatically via the relationships that are harvested. Okay. Now I'm just going to move back to the impact, which I showed earlier, but I just want to give you another view here. So we get to see our asset here front and center. We get to see all the various different touch points across our organization. So if there was a change to be made, right? So for my carbon footprint, I want to know what goal is impacting, which we talked about earlier. I want to understand the data quality rules that are applied. In this case, there's only one, but we might have a number of different data quality rules which are impacting our carbon footprint. I might want to understand the policies, the processes that directly relate. And you can see all of those here. And if you wanted to, you can start to filter into those and start to really home in and focus on only the ones that you're interested in. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to see that there's a process directly related to this, which is our site assessment process. I'm actually going to open that up in a new tab just to give you an idea of the kind of final component here of our visualization, where we can state out a critical business process. This is for our site assessment process, which directly relates to our ESG information. And we can start to map that process out and understand which assets across our organization are related to individual steps. So for here, we're trying to collate our sustainability information. We have 8 assets tied to that. We can see we've got our carbon footprint, our carbon sequestration, our contact phone number, we got our energy consumption as well, and greenhouse gases assets. So you can tie the different assets to the business process here as well. So looking at it from a view of the process rather than just looking at it from the process, a case of cataloging assets as well. So coming back to here, my impact analysis. The last thing I just want to touch on here is the ability where we can comment here. So I've just been able to add a comment here. I can tag some of my colleagues, get them involved as well with the assets and start to collaborate with them on the various different parts of the asset as well. And then finally, once looking at the definition of the asset, the last thing I want to look at here is the ability to take an action against this asset. So I can come in here and say, I want to take an action against this asset. So in this case, my carbon footprint, I might want to say, I want to request a change to this. So it's something that I believe needs to be changed in this asset. I can provide a description, the field that I want to change, what I want to change it to, and the reason. And you can define any of these actions which are related to workflows, right? So the moment you save this, there'll be an associated workflow which will get kicked off, and then that will then go through and execute a process. So let's just take a quick look at what the workflows look like, just to give you an idea. So we're going to my configuration here. take a look at my workflows. I'm going to open up one of these workflows just to give you an idea of what the workflows look like here. You'll see here, the next screen is where we do the creation of the workflows. This is all kind of drag and drop, where you drag these components up, you connect them up, and you can start to create your workflows here. In this case, we're actually doing a request for certification, right? So this allows me to automate procedures and steps within my governance processes, right? So in this case, we're looking to review assets and get them certified. So we come across here, we send out a certification form, and I'm just going to edit this so you can see that there's no requirement here to do any code, and it's all kind of click and select menus for your response type, your data stewards are who you're targeting, and then you're asking them, do you wish to certify the term, and any comments they want to add. And then it allows you to split into two paths here. And what you can do here is you can say for the left-hand path, if they respond with a certification of true, then we will automatically set it to certified and we'll send out an email notification. However, if they don't approve the certification, we simply send out an email saying your request has been denied. So you can create these workflows, wrap them around your governance program, allows you to automate various tasks, notify people when they need to be notified about changes and approval requests, and have multiple levels of approval requests happen within the platform as well. And then we talked about in our improvement of our sustainability reporting, how data quality is quite important to this, right? So the trust we have in our assets. And that's really a key part of the governance, right? So here we have our rules, or we have a number of different data quality components providing us data quality measures, right? So some of the different precisely data quality components allow you to do your data quality against your assets here. So you can see here, I've got a number of different data quality checks which are occurring. If I wanted to, I can come in here and focus on the various different data quality checks that we're cataloging and we're governing. And I can say, right, take me to my valid value check. I can understand the definition of the check that we have. So the rule number, the valid values check, the dimension, in this case, integrity, a description of our rule, the asset that it's working again here, we see our carbon footprint, and then I can start to understand the results that we get as well. So I can see some summary results. So when this is executed against various assets, I can start to understand the total rows that are executed, the number of rows passed, and the number of rows that failed as well. So all of this feeds into the data quality rules, feeding into the assets and giving you your overall data quality score. And it could be that you might want to request additional data quality rules. So you could come in here and say, actually, I want to raise a workflow to say we need some additional data quality rules against this asset. So you can define those, request those, and as they go through the various level of approvals, you can have additional data quality rules defined against the asset to improve. So we might say a completeness rule is needed here as well, and we can request that as part of the data quality rules section here, which could be created in the data quality components, be it precisely or be it some external component as well. And then finally, we're looking at the dashboards here to start to understand. We looked at our governance program, so we can create the various dashboards around our governance data and start to understand how this all kind of comes together from a governance perspective. So you can see in this case our governance score and how it's kind of averaged across trending across our organization. We can cut it by responsibility type to see how our business owners are performing, how our data analysts are performing, how our data stewards are performing, and we can even do some kind of gamification here with our kind of average leaderboard as well. So you have the ability to create these dashboards, produce them, have them visible here within the governance component as well. This is an example using the Data 360 dashboards, but you can of course integrate your other technologies such as Power BI as well and have those dashboards integrated into the platform as well. So just to recap, we've come in with our initiative to increase and improve our sustainability reporting and the trust we have in it. We've looked at how an asset can be found by going via our goals, our objectives, our metrics, and tying the technical assets to that. We've also been able to search directly for our assets, find our assets, and understand how quality affects them, how processes can feed into them, and how all the various different types, such as policies, all comes together around a single asset.